and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some cheddar cheese crackers, and these are going to be round crackers, and I'm going to use a circular cookie cutter, which is, if I can see the size, 70 millimeters, 2 3/4 inches. So about that size. And these crackers are based on a recipe which I did a few years ago for little 1-inch square crackers that I rolled out very, very thinly, and they were nice and crisp and crunchy. These ones would be crisp on the outside, and for mine they would have just a slight chew in the centre, because I'm going to roll them out to a thickness of about 4 millimeters, between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch basically. Now you can roll them thinner, and if you want them crisper you can either roll them thinner or you can bake them for longer, but mine will be crisp on the outside and just have a little bite or chew on the inside. And I'm going to use some seasoning, which is an aromat seasoning that I can buy over here, but you can put whatever seasoning you want. You could put some garlic powder, some onion powder, a little bit of cayenne pepper or whatever. The amount you use is up to you, because it depends how strong you want that flavour to go with the cheese. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for this I have 130 grams, which is 2/3 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons, based on scooping packed flour into a 250 millilitre cup of plain flour. And I have 6 grams, 1½ teaspoons of my aromat seasoning, which I'm going to put into the flour now. I have 56 grams, 4 tablespoons of cold butter, unsalted butter, which I have cut into cubes. I have 225 grams, 8 ounces of cheddar cheese, which I have grated. And I'm going to use between 45 millilitres and 60 millilitres, 3 to 4 tablespoons of ice cold water. Now I'm not putting any salt in mine because my aromat seasoning has quite a bit of salt in it already, so I don't need extra salt in mine. I'm just going to mix that round just a little bit to get that seasoning mixed into the flour. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to put the butter and the cheese into the flour, and I'm going to process that. You can rub it between your fingers, but you need to rub it until you have a coarse granular texture, like coarse sand, not fine sand or bread, coarse sand. So I'll put the butter in, and I'm just going to give that a bit of a toss around, and then I'm going to put the cheese in, and I'm going to just mix it a little bit as I put it in, just to get some of that flour distributed into the cheese a bit. And then I'm going to process that until, as I say, I have my coarse texture that I need. And that's good like that. I'll just check. Yes, that's quite good. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in about 3 tablespoons of my ice cold water, and then I'm going to process it until it clumps together. And if it doesn't clump, I will add a little drop more water, maybe a teaspoon at a time, until it does clump. and that's clumped together quite nicely. And so I'm going to tip that out onto some plastic wrap, because I'm going to roll this between 2 layers of plastic wrap. And I'm actually only going to roll half of it for the time being. I'll do the other half later. So I'm going to squeeze that and just gently knead it just a little bit. I don't want to knead it to form gluten, but I just want to make sure that it all comes together. Like that, and then I'm going to divide that into 2 pieces. So I've divided it into 2 pieces, and I've got half of it here, and I'm simply going to roll this half out until it's, as I said before, about 4 millimeters in thickness, and you roll it as thin or as thick as you like, basically. And with that rolled out, I'm going to simply cut that into rounds, and I'm going to pick them up and put them onto a parchment lined baking tray, leaving a bit of a gap between them. So I've rolled out 12, that's half of my dough, and I have the other half of the dough which I can make another 12 with. And as you can see, they're not particularly thick, but they're thick enough, and I'm going to prick them with a fork and I've pricked them all over with a fork. That's good enough like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pop those into the fridge while I preheat my oven to 190 degrees Celsius. That's 170 Celsius with the fan, 375 Fahrenheit. And when the oven has come to temperature, I'm going to put these into the oven, and I'm going to bake mine for 17 minutes. But you can bake them between 15 and 20 minutes. And depending on how thick they are, you may want to bake them slightly longer, and how crisp you want them, you may want to bake them slightly longer. But after 17 minutes, I'll take mine out of the oven and transfer them to a wire rack to cool, and once they've cooled down, I'll come back, show you what they look like, and I'll have a taste of them. I baked my cheddar cheese crackers, or cheddar crackers, for 17 minutes. And they baked up nicely, coloured nicely on the top. They rose up a little bit, puffed, should I say. And I took them out of the oven and put them onto a wire rack, and I've allowed them to cool down. So this is what they look like. And you may be able to see I've already nibbled one of them. But they baked up quite nicely. Nice and firm on the outside, but they do have a little bit of bite when you bite into them. So I'll have a taste of this one. Has that lovely cheesy flavour, and I can get some of my aromat seasoning flavour as well. But as I mentioned, you can add no flavour at all if you don't want to, or you can add something like cayenne pepper, or maybe some herbs if you have some herbs that you enjoy with cheese, or maybe some chives. But whatever you want basically, and the amount you use is up to you. So I used 1.5 teaspoons of my aromatic seasoning, but if I was to use cayenne pepper, I don't think I'd use more than 1/2 teaspoon, because that tends to have much more kick to it. So a very, very simple recipe, and I think these are ideal with a bowl of soup. You could even break them up and sprinkle them on the top if you wanted to, but very simple to make, and they don't take very long at all. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.